I'm Tom Ziegler. Welcome to the Ziegler Legacy Series Webcast. We're so excited you've joined us today. You know, every time we have one of these, we have people from all over the globe. Over 40 countries will participate in each one of these. We've had an incredible time. We've already had Brian Tracy and Dave Ramsey, and coming up in the near future, we're going to have Dennis Waitley and Ken Blanchard and Seth Godin. I mean, this is an incredible series we have. And let me tell you about the series. Last year when Dad went home to be with the Lord, in fact, it'll be a one-year anniversary on November the 28th. After that time, our family and company got together and we thought, how can we honor Dad? How can we, honor the work that he did? And one of the thoughts that came up is, what if the world-class leaders, presenters, business experts from all over the world, what if the ones who had been impacted by Dad in some way, whose life had been inspired, whose message had been tweaked or impacted because of something they heard or read from Zig Ziglar, what if they were to come on and share insights as to how that impacted them and how they in turn are taking that message forward? So that's what the Ziglar Legacy series is all about. Today we've got Bob Baudine. Bob is a great friend of mine. Bob has written an incredible book called The Power of Who. Along with that book, he has a workbook. And a few years ago, when I first became good friends with Bob, I read this book, and I have to tell you, it changed my life. It's about friendship. It's about the things that really matter. And this book impacted me on a personal level, and it helped me to grow closer to so many of my friends. Well, earlier this year, not too many months ago, we had a Ziglar Legacy training. That's a 1.5-day program that we hold in our offices from time to time. And Bob was our secret special guest speaker, and we filmed that presentation. And I tell you what, it was inspiring. So what you're about to see is a live video that we recorded in front of our audience there that day, and it talks about Dad's impact in Bob's life and then messages that Bob is taking out to people all over the world and impacting them. Please join me as we watch this, and I'll be back at the end of this webcast. Get your pen and paper out and take notes as you go along, because there are life-changing things that you're about to encounter. We'll see you in a few minutes. Hi, I'm Tom Ziegler. Welcome to our Ziglar Legacy series. Man, am I excited today. We have Ziglar Legacy training right here in our Ziglar headquarters going on right now. So we have a live audience today. And I tell you what, I am personally blessed to have my good friend, Bob Baudine here. Bob, how are you doing today?
Man, I cannot be any better.
Okay.
Just tell you what.
I tell you what, the Ziglar Legacy series is about honoring Dad's legacy. It's about bringing together thought leaders, experts, authors, speakers who are out carrying on the Ziglar legacy.
Right.
And I know you are speaking all over the world. You've got your message, The Power of Who, and you impacted me personally, and I know that you're carrying on Dad's philosophy, so it's just a blessing that you're here.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
So just as a way of introduction to Bob, for those of you who haven't met him before, it's ESPN, right? ESPN said that Bob is the most influential man in college sports that you've never heard of. So Bob's kind of the secret wheeler-dealer guy that makes the whole thing work in the college athletics area and as well as professional sports, right?
Exactly.
Am I pretty good on that?
It's good.
It's good, okay.
Yeah.
That's what he does. He makes a difference doing that, but his passion is speaking into the lives of people so that they can develop relationships that take them to the next level. I got Bob's book, The Power of Who, about 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago. Totally changed my life. Because of that, I wrote a letter and sent a book to my 12 strongest friends that I went through, and our relationships went to a new level. I can't tell you the impact it had on me. And it's because of that Bob is here. Because I've seen him impact others, I've seen him impact my friends, I've seen him impact me. He carries on Dad's message. So Bob, once again, being here is just fantastic. The first question, how did you first, what was your first encounter with Dad? How did that come about?
I've known and probably been like everybody probably here in this entire audience, all the people who are actually watching this, I've been a close friend of Zig Ziglar's, and I hadn't even known him. Is there something about that in our hearts that you can actually create such a relationship with someone that you actually are reading their books, listening to their tapes, watching them on TV, and somehow that spirit of who they are comes in and just rocks you? Well, of course, that's just it. But I have something better. I live in Plano. He's in my town. He actually walks my neighborhood. It took me 2 minutes to walk, to come over here. So I have a great story. And before I do, I gotta tell you a quote that I want to kind of show a little bit. And this quote is that if you could only sense how important you are to the people you're going to meet. Okay? If you could only sense what this is, how important you are to the lives of those you meet, how important you are to people you might never even meet. You can't even dream of all these people. Okay? You can't even stop and say there's something of yourself that you leave at every meeting with every person you're going to do it. This was by Mr. Rogers. It's one of my favorite guys. The neighborhood, right? It's a wonderful day in the neighborhood. I'll never forget, Zig Ziglar always walked the neighborhood. I would go out to work, and there would be Zig as I was driving to work, and he would look, and I'd go, Zig! And he'd go, over the top, Bob! Holy cow! It's Zig Ziglar. He's like, hey! And so my daughter brings over her little dog to my house one day, this little furry dog. And she says, hey, Dad, you got to watch my dog. I got to go do some things, etc. I put it in the backyard. The little dog gets out. It gets through my little fence. And so all of a sudden I'm panicked that my daughter's going to be like furious with me. So I'm thinking to myself, oh gosh, what am I going to do? I've lost the dog. I think, Zig Ziglar. That's probably what you think each day. I go to his house. I knock on his door. I said, and he comes, and there's Zig, and he comes to the door. And he's got this big old folder in his hand with papers all in it, all the way in and like this. And I go, Zig, Bob Baudine. He goes, Bob, how are you? I go, I'm totally panicked. What's the problem? I said, I've lost my daughter's dog. And he goes, what did the dog look like? And I said, it's this little white furry dog. And he opens up the folder and he has gone to FedEx Kinko's and he had copied and taken a picture of the dog and he was about to walk out in the neighborhood and staple and put up all over the neighborhood. Zig was about to walk out and he says, is this your dog? And I go, that's my dog. I need that dog. I said, where is he? He goes, the little redhead has it in the back. And so I went back and she's playing with the dog. Is it possible that someone could have that type of impact every day? Of course he does. I mean, that's why Zig wasn't just a treasure. He's a national treasure. He's a national treasure. It's so missed today. But the legacy of Zig is in the little things he does for us every single day. The messages you keep hearing from people who have come through all of the Legend series, of people who have been touched in places in the world that Zig never even dreamed they would even actually know. From people he spoke to, when I would sit and talk to Tom, they would come up and they would say to Tom, I can't tell you how much your dad did this to me. Or they'd come up and they'd sit at some place that they're having lunch and just break into the middle of it, right?
Right.
And so, did he ever get bothered by that?
Absolutely not.
No. So there's something about that.
And you know what? As his son and my mom, we never got bothered either because people were coming up to share how Dad had impacted their life. That's totally different.
Oh yeah.
Right. But trust me, if anybody's ever come to you, no matter how busy you are, and they tell you that, you like it. It's a good thing.
Okay.
So Bob, I know you like to rock and roll.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do in this part of it is I'm going to ask you the question we've asked everybody else. We've had this with Dave Ramsey, Seth Godin, Brian Tracy, Dan Cathy at Chick-fil-A, Ken Blanchard. I mean, we've got heavyweight superstars, and we've got more coming. We've got you. So the question is this. We ask everybody the same thing on the Ziegler Legacy series. Bob, if somebody were to come to you, a college student, a 30-year-old, a 60-year-old, doesn't matter. If somebody were to come to you and they said, Bob, you know what, you've got a life of influence. I know you've made mistakes. I know you've overcome obstacles, and now you're impacting others. What are the top 5 things that you would tell them, Bob, that they need to do to be successful, over the top successful, to be significant?
Better than good.
Better than good. In their personal life, their family life, their business life, and their spiritual life. What are the top 5 things that they need to do? And I'm just going to let you roll with this.
Good.
And I'm going to be sitting over here, and when you're done, just go, I'm done. No, close off however you want. And we'll come back up, and we'll do a little bit of Q&A.
Awesome.
All right, thanks, Bob.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much. I am so honored to be able to give 5 tips to amazing people. Every single day I get a chance to kind of go across the country, go across the globe. So what I did was I didn't want to just give you the talk totally on the Power Who, which is an amazing talk because it wasn't just, I couldn't write a book called The Power of Friendship because I got 5,000 people on Facebook and my best friends, right? So we actually had to change the word friend, which is more like what Zig would be. It's the people who matter most in your life, people you actually touch, people you actually can spend time with. I thought I wanted to not only give 5 tips, but I wanted them to be in a way that I could tie Zig to each and every one of them because he's inspired me in every single one. Tip number 1, okay? Only the inspired in life inspire. This is one of the ones, I love inspiration. I can listen to inspiration every day. I believe that one message, someone believed in you early in your life, they spoke into your life, they told you who you were, and it changed the entire trajectory. As I interview the greatest of great, I've done commissioners of baseball, I've interviewed presidents and generals and heads of consumer packaged goods companies and every NBA, all the coolest jobs that you could possibly have. Every person I ask, was there one person who actually spoke into your life and changed it with one statement? You know that they all can tell about one 5-minute conversation. How many of those did Zig have? Oh my gosh, it's a nonstop fest for him. He every single day woke up with the opportunity to think in his mind that he could say one thing that could change your life. I dig that. I want to do that today. I tell you that the message I have, some messages are so timely, it's as if they were written just for you. Well, I can tell you that I didn't write a message. A friend of mine is Tom. I'm not going to just try to give a message. I got to give the message. I got to do something over the top. And so I did every single one that relates to him. 1, only the inspired in life inspire, okay? So here it is. The energy between 2 people is what makes great marriages, families, organizations. It does everything in life. It all of a sudden creates legendary sales results. So that energy, when you're around people you like, okay? You have this homing signal in yourself that when you're around people you like, it goes beep, 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 beep. When you're around people you don't like, beep, 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 beep. Right, it's a click. There's some people who you're supposed to be with. They're supposed to dig you. When you see them, your voice goes up, you talk positive to them, you're happy about it, you're on the phone, you jump up and go, hey! My first thing that Tommy and I do is I go, Tommy Z! That's my opener. He goes, Bobby B! So listen, it's all about you having those relationships. When did we not have that? Listen, I'm on the board of the Texas Rangers baseball team. That was good timing. And so on this, listen, one of the things that I found is the very first time that the Rangers won, this energy is there. They just were all over each other. They excited, players jumping, doing everything. The second time we won, oh my gosh, it was just crazy. And it all started, I wouldn't say that the Rangers, when they first started, were actually the best team. They have teams that had talent, people paid for so much more. But what is it about organizations? What is it about Zig? What is it about the Ziegler Corporation? What is it about a Legend series? And what is it that you need to remember that actually changes people? It's this ability to inspire. It's this ability to fuel passion, because passion, it wins the day, it wins the campaigns, it wins the girl, it wins everything in every part of life in this kind of thing. And so it all started in this process with a guy doing the claw. So we have David Murphy doing the claw. This is called the long distance high five. Everybody give me a claw. It's unbelievable. You can, in seconds, all of a sudden, we can like be on top of it in a second. Then they do something even better. They start doing antler ears. Everybody give me some antler ears. You didn't give me antler ears. Where's your antler ears? That's it. This is important to actually give it. Why? Because this creates a camaraderie that's crazy. All of a sudden, they're now doing zips, and they're bowing to each other, they're sliding in, they're doing things, and this team, all of a sudden that's good, becomes a little better than good, right? And somehow, that camaraderie, this aspect. Now, the world to which we says friends and business are taboo. So let me get this correct. We're supposed to work with people we don't know and don't trust? I mean, this is crazy stuff. Because of Ponzi schemes, I'm supposed to disclose our friendship as like evil instead of declaring it as great? I'm not going to do that. So the issue would be is you've got to decide if you're going to actually change the organization, and the only person who can change this organization is you. You have to bring the inspiration. Zig planted it in you every day. And so somehow along the way, everyone gives it up. They're waiting. They're thinking, hey, business, I'm not supposed to do this. Listen, only 18% of corporations have a program that even promotes friendship. That means 82% don't. Well, get to work. Why would I want to have that? Because one friend, one true friend in your organization, and you're 40% more productive. You're less sick. You're happier. You're more positive. You'll be involved. You'll give. You'll be a servant. You'll help other people. But only 30% of the country have one friend. Is that like sad? No wonder 69% of the country believe that a bad day at the beach is better than a good day at work. We're in trouble. We have a crisis today. The crisis is lots of friends, no friendships. This is a problem. We have a delusion called social media. That actually, I don't have to sit with you. I can just sit on my computer in a beautiful day while other people are out doing things. Look, if the Rangers didn't do that, what are they doing? They're doing this. And what happens is people are all doing it with us, just like us. I loved seeing it again. Everyone give me some antler ears. It's unbelievable. See, we all of a sudden get this feeling that we're all part of a team together. And that happens immediately. It all starts because of what? One guy, Ron Washington, who all of a sudden does it. And when he starts doing it, when you have a leader on your team who inspires from the top, all of a sudden, guess what happens? People all of a sudden start looking like you. We got kids dressing up. It's crazy. It's a nice thing, and everybody starts to dress like you and start to do it, and then guess what happens? The whole dang team is doing it. And when that happens, everything changes. Now, my dad, I had a great dad. Oh my gosh. My dad was my best friend. I worked with my dad for 20 years. My dad started the executive search industry back in 1967. So just like Tom, I love that Tom has that, hey, he's the proud son of Zig. I'm the proud son of Frank Baudine. I worked with my dad for 20 years. And my dad just planted in me every single day. And he liked to do some things that I want to encourage every one of you to do with your kids, with people you're around. And that is that he would try to show them something. He would try to do something and train me every single day like we're in here doing. And he would train me in the subject of what greatness looks like. You got to see what greatness looks like. You don't have to do much. And when I go over to Zig's house and all of a sudden he's actually got a whole folder of my dog that he's going to personally go out to, and he's Zig Ziglar. That guy's the President of the United States. He's Billy Graham. What are you talking about? Would he really do that? Yeah, that's what he does. He stops for every single person. He cares about people. He does it. But there's this energy I'm talking about, right? This inspiration, this number one tip that only the inspired inspire. Everybody say that. Only the inspired inspires. That's it. You got to inspire. You have to inspire every single day. And so what happens is, initially, he always wanted to show me what greatness looks like. And I want to show you that here's a picture back in 1973. That's me and Arnold Palmer, me with my Justin Bieber haircut. Okay? So that's the king. This is Arnold Palmer. How many people like Arnold Palmer? Oh my gosh. Okay, so if you're young, I mean, Arnold Palmer's like the greatest golfer of today's day, okay? It's just something that's so big. And so here it is that we're going to go out, and back in the day, and this is the 1973 Bob Hope Desert Classic. We would always go there, and we'd always go. And so we stalked Arnold Palmer. And so I'll never forget this hole. He hit this shot, okay, on the 16th hole into the woods. And so back in the day, they don't have like ropes. So we actually get to go wherever he goes. And so he's in the woods, and my dad and I are the ones that are right here. It's just spectacular. We're right here in the woods. There's his ball. Arnie comes over. His caddy's already surveyed the situation. Arnie kind of hitches his pants. Arnie was such a stud. I mean, it's just nothing like him. And he comes over and he sits and he's looking and the caddy's now saying to him, now listen, Arnie, you'd have to hit this shot 240 yards underneath this tree. You see that tree right there? That tree's right in our way, so you can't. And then you'd have to hook it left to a green that's tucked in tight with traps. Whew. Listen, here's what I like you to have. We don't have to do that. Hit a little wedge right out here. So Arnie's got his bag and he's kind of waggling the wedge. Did you ever notice that great people, okay, hate hitting wedges out there? They don't like doing that. They despise the concept. So he's waggling the wedge, and since he gets his inspiration, his energy from the people around him, he needs some people. He needs some who. He needs to see who's around him. And so he's waggling the wedge, and then slowly he turns his head, and there's my dad and I standing right over there. And as he turns his head to look at my dad, he and my dad look eye to eye, and my dad gives him the no sign on the wedge. The caddy goes, I saw that. Don't listen to that man. Hit the wedge right out there. And so, Arnie's smirking. He waggles the wedge again. Slowly, he turns his head. And my dad gives him the no sign again. Arnie stalks over to see if he could possibly hit this shot. And he's underneath seeing, can he do this? And he comes back and starts waggling the forward. Slowly, he turns his head. And my dad gives him the yes sign on the forward. He takes the forward out. He barks at the caddy to get out of the way. He sets himself up, okay? And whew, he has this finish. It's just Arnold Palmer. This shot just clears underneath the tree. It's unbelievable. It's momentous. All of a sudden, like a homing signal, boom, it turns left. And all of a sudden, it's going towards the flag. Boom, 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 it goes up. It's 4 feet from the pin. The crowd's going crazy. All of a sudden, my dad is looking over at Arnold Palmer's looking over at my dad, and he's saluting my dad. And the whole folklore of Arnold Palmer is all because of my dad. Inspiration. Only the inspired inspire. That's your choice today. 1 number tip. Why? Because 2 are better than 1. It's a better return on your investment. This has been around for thousands of years. God planted that in your heart, that you had to have another person who encouraged you, who saw things in you. See, friends are different than acquaintances. Friends help you now. Acquaintances, they wish you well. A friend is someone who knows the song in your heart. They can sing it back to you when you've forgotten the words. There's times when we potentially are so beaten down that we have no hope. We're isolated. That's what the enemy wants to do. But with a friend, with someone who inspires you, you can be lifted to a higher level. Zig Ziglar lived his life, and now Tom Ziglar and his family live their life to inspire other people. Honored and proud to call Tom my friend. I'm here because of Tom, period. It's what friends are for. Success tip number 2. You plus God equals enough. It's one of Zig's great ones. He said that he thought there should be a higher level, a higher plane of math, right? It's that you plus God is amazing. Okay, so let's talk about that. How do you start your day? So do you go for a run? This is I have a picture up, and the picture is kind of like a Manhattan beach. It's this beautiful thing, and of course, Tommy's like he does all these type of training things and goes everywhere and gets these cool things, probably runs on coals, and he does all these other things. I mean, he does more things I've ever done. I mean, and I'm already too old for all of that. But I used to be a runner, and one of the things I did, but here's my question. Do you get up that, or are you a person who gets up early, gets in the newspaper, gets in the metro section, starts looking for murders. Is that who you are? I mean, there's a whole lot of people who their first thought is the obits, and they're going to go into something. Are you a person who gets your coffee? I got to get like 3. I got to get my espresso. I got to get that. Here's what I do, actually. 2 chairs. 2 chairs is the success tip for the day. 1 chair's for God, 1's for me. Every day, I meet him at 5:30 in the morning. We live in an impossible life with impossible things going on. Every single day. It's the craziest. I have 3 daughters, 28, 26, 22. That'll put you under right off the bat. I mean, purses, shoes. I'm now a grandfather. I got a 2-year-old grandson who's awesome. I got my middle daughter's, all of a sudden having a baby, Emma. It's going to be due in October. Then you have a business, and then you have speaking, and you have stuff, and then you have heartache, right? Because in life, God promises that you will have trouble. But be of good cheer. God plus, you is enough in this process. So, do you start your day there? Every football quarterback has a quarterback coach. Every CEO has a life coach. I call those fake friends. And, you got to have somebody you can talk to. And so I walk in disheveled, problematic. Here's the thing. How many people know one person out of a job today? How many people know somebody who's in a crisis personally, a friend of theirs? Right. So here's a tough one. How many people know of one person, who committed suicide? So just so everyone knows, who maybe just didn't see all the people in the audience, everybody's hands up. So a couple years back, my nephew, 23, committed suicide. Oh, I don't know. Stud, great kid, great talent, huge opportunity in life. Had 1 or 2 bad days, doing some things that he hadn't, really should have done with people he shouldn't have been doing it with, and changed a little bit of who he was. And you don't get enough time to spend, and you want that moments back in this process. You want it back as fast as you can. My time in the morning with God recalibrates everything. 5 minutes in the presence of God changes all your best laid plans. 5 minutes. You don't have time not to spend time in the morning first with God. If you're walking by, he's totally confused. He's going, hold it a second. I got things I want to do. I own time. I could open up doors for you. I could tell you who you need to talk to. I could give you great wisdom. I could give you peace that passes all understanding. And yet, somehow, we think that what we're doing is actually more effective. But it's not. We have 23 million people out of a job. They won't tell their friends that they're out of a job. They're humiliated. We have 80% of the country who have jobs are not using their number 1 talent. So that means we're spending billions of dollars training them in jobs they don't want to do. They're going to cubicle, we got 70% of the college kids can't get a job, 70. So they're going to go to the ones who get jobs will go to cubicle number 3, and then when they're 46, they'll be in cubicle number 6 looking like the guy from Office Space, right? With a stapler. We have trouble. 60% of the country is getting divorced. I mean, we have on one side all the baby boomers who have all thought that wisdom was going to be the way, and they could do their 401ks, they could press the envelope, they could do all their stuff, and they found all of a sudden, hey, without God, that hadn't really helped. We have all the young people who are thinking, I'm going to get a cool job. I'm not going to do what my parents did, and I'm not going to pay that price. I'm not going to do all that. I'm just going to get that job, and somehow, oops, we need a little wisdom and passion together, and it would be amazingly good if all of a sudden we could do this with God. I walk into the room disheveled and not knowing who I am. I walk out of that room as a son of the King. Success number 3. You may have made some mistakes. I love this. This is one of Zig's, my favorite things he said. You may not know, you might not be where you really want to be right now. But I can promise you this, that's got nothing to do with your future. So let me tell you a story. I had to give a talk to the Henry Wade Juvenile Detention Center. A friend of mine asked me to give a talk and said, hey, I need you to talk to these 70 kids. And it's right here in Dallas. And these kids are one strike away from going to prison. 70 kids. And so I said, what am I going to talk about? He goes, no, I want you to talk about the power of who. I go, what? And he goes, no, he says, you got to tell them who they are. I really was praying about this. I was thinking about this. You're the guy. You're going to do the talk and everything. And he said, I'm going to introduce you. It's going to rock it. It's going to be fabulous. I arrive at this place. It's very ominous. As you get up to the thing and you get to the first thing, I'm waiting for my guy and I get a text message from my friend who's going to introduce me and he's not going to be able to make it. He had a flat tire. Great. I walk in and they're going through the check. Then the door closed. I walk into the next room and you go through the next checks and now you're not taking anything with you. And then you start to do it, and as I peel open this door, it's a very thick door, to get into the room with the 70 kids, there's no air feeling. There's no hope. There's no inspiration. There's no encouragement. There's no friendship. There's nothing in this room. And I'm feeling dismal. There are 4 guards. These are all kids about 17 years of age. There are probably 55 guys and about 15, young women the same age. And they're in there and they don't really want to hear a speaker. This is not something that they would be excited about hearing. So I'm up and I walk into this room and I get up and then comes this, and they have these 4 big guards, big tattoos, da-da-da. And the first guy, the guard comes up and he goes, bam, bam, bam. Everyone, sit down. I told you had this speaker. I have no idea what he's going to talk about. But you're going to listen. You are going to give him attention. Have I made myself crystal clear? And I thought, that is exactly not what I wanted anybody to say. So I'm thinking, and I had really thought all the way over here, what am I going to talk about? And I got this feeling really from God, I'm not telling you. Because there's nothing you could say, probably anything that comes out of your mouth that would be good at this juncture point. And I sure don't want to hear anything about any aspect of the who or things or stuff. So I thought, okay, great. So I'm waiting. For the first 5 minutes, I feel like a bad comic. This is not going good. And then, like a wave, all of a sudden, I remember who I am, the path I'm called, and the message that I'm supposed to give. And I tell everyone, listen, sit up, I got this amazing message. It's going to change the entire trajectory of your life. It's called One Friend. Everybody say one friend. One friend. I said, you're all here because you chose the wrong one. And now I got their attention. I looked around the room for the toughest person in the room. And I looked over and I said, hey, what's your name? And he's big. He doesn't look like a guy I'd want to be tussling with at this point. And he said, hey, Roderick. Roderick, hey, that's great. Stand up. I said, Roderick, so a fight's just about to break out. Now all of a sudden the guards are immediately not totally happy with what I just said. I said, a fight's going to break out in any second. I need you to tell me who's the one friend you're going to pick in the room who has your back. Go ahead, you can tell me. And he looked at me and he goes, I said, no, go ahead. Go ahead, look around the room. Who's the one friend? A fight's going to break out. It's going to be chaos in a second. And I need you to tell me who's your one friend. He looks around the room. And so slowly you can see his eyes start to look around. And then he goes, bam, there he is. And he goes, that guy. And I said, wow, this guy? I said, what's your name? And he stands up and he goes, Jamal. I said, Jamal, holy cow. Did you just hear what he said? He actually declared you as his one friend. Do you know that I can't get CEOs in America to tell me who their one friend is? Men after the age of 35 stop adding friends. Men after the age of 60 give up all their old friends. This whole concept of friendship has gone totally down the tubes here. We are in a crisis in America. No one declares friendship. So when Tom Ziegler started out our conversation and said that he wrote in my book, hey, you're my who. When I read this book, I thought about us. I love you. That's a hard concept for men to say to another man. Okay? Women do this really good, but there's 5 levels of friendship that as you read my book that I'll start to teach you about that we've got to get back in. We've got to understand the rules of friendship. So I looked at him and I said, hey, come on, Jamal, he has just said it. So are you going to keep him hanging? Is he your friend? Is he the one? If a fight's now going to happen in the next 30 seconds, have you got his back? And he says, I got his back. I looked at Roderick. I said, get over there and give him a high five. And so, dang, he just moves. I thought, awesome. And he starts to move. And then I said, while you're there, give him a hug. The whole crowd goes, Man, bam, he gives him a high five, and boom, he gives him a little hug. And 20% of the air came back into the room. Instantaneously. I get 3 more, all of a sudden, to do the same thing. All of them give high fives. All of them give hugs. All of them declare their friend until I get to, all of a sudden, Hector. And Hector looks at me and he says, I ain't got no friend. No. My mom's a crackhead. My dad died. I ain't got nobody. And I sure don't have, and he looks around the room, he sure don't have anybody in this room. And I go, well, that ain't cutting it. The fight's going to break out. You got to commit. You're going to have to pick someone because otherwise you're going to get a whipping. And so he said, I said, go ahead, tell me who it is. Look around. And so he starts scanning the room. And all of a sudden he looks and there's the guy. It's the guard. Big old tattoo guy, ZZ Top beard. Okay? And he looks and he goes, he's my one. And the guy looks and starts to cry and opens his arm, the guard, and says, get over here, I want my hug. And the whole room changed. The whole room changed. Declaration of friendship today. Oh my gosh, can we not declare our friendship to people? Can we not declare it to our husbands and our wives and our kids and tell them how much they're loved? Can we not take a moment any longer and tell people that they matter to us? I mean that, I send out a note to my 3 girls and I say to my oldest, hey, did I tell you today that I love you? And so my oldest always sends back and she goes, oh, Daddy, I love you. My middle says, you just did. My littlest says, no, you didn't call me. We have different love languages. But I'll tell you one love language that doesn't do anything that Zig Ziglar loved people and he told it. He voiced it. There was no question in his mind that he was going to tell you who you were, what your opportunity was, what you could do in life, what type of person you were, and the greatness that was ahead. You are a treasure chest of gifts and talents. You do one thing better than anybody else in the world. No one maybe has told you how great you are. No one has said that you're the most amazing person and you could do something so radical today that could change this entire complex of how we think, how we do something with. But we need a friend to encourage us. One person who could maybe turn to that person who knows it inside, who's God talked to them and told them this was their future and their plan, but they're going to give it up. And if you give up your dream, your kids will give up theirs. It's a generational curse. That's where we are. We're in a generational curse, and we need to stop the curse. So here's my question. Friends, who's your wingman? You got to have a wingman today. You have to have one person that you declare and say, this is my friend. And when you're with them and you introduce them, they know it. They know the love. I'll never forget the first breakfast that Tom introduced me to the guy who does my workbook, Bruce Barber. We go and we're having over here at the Shops at Legacy. We walk in. Not only is the introduction, so this guy's going to help me do my workbook, kind of help me kind of do some editing a little bit. He's the guy who's been with this company, and he's introducing me. So unlike other people who just say, hey, I'm going to do a virtual introduction, he's at my breakfast. He's already with Bruce, telling him about me, loving on me, sharing about me, teeing me up before I walk in. Bruce already loves me before I even came in. I'm already his friend. We start out, Bruce hugs me. I mean, it's our opener. Yeah, of course, I dig the hugging thing. I mean, I'm sure that does not surprise you. And so I dig it. And the answer is that we have this breakfast. He said, okay, I just want to introduce you and I'm going to go. And then he left and then he comes back in the room and he says, hey, I just want to tell you, I forgot. I wrote and told Bruce about your book and told him how much I love your book shared to me, planted in my heart, gave me an opportunity to tell Bruce, my longtime friend, how much I love him. And he says, when I told him I love him, it moved us to a different level of friendship. And Bruce immediately confirmed it. That's just like Dr. Seuss simple here, isn't it? I mean, am I really talking about complex things? No, God is about love and telling and voicing and speaking. It's a thought, it's a word, and you say it. We say so many things that we don't need to say. Who's your wingman? The development and cultivation of one friend is the missing link. You can't do life alone. You can't tell me that your best friend is in Topeka. Don't get me wrong, it's good that you have one. I want you to stay in touch. You can't say that I don't have any more friends and I'm not going to sit now and add a new friend. It doesn't work for you. My dad was 73 when I told my dad, I said, listen, you need another friend. It's besides me. I'm your best friend. He goes, no, I got your brothers and your sister. And he says, I go all day long in executive recruiting meetings. So people, all acquaintances. Can't call them. So what's the difference between a who and an acquaintance? Hey, so do you know my wife's name and have you been to my house for a barbecue? You gotta share life. We gotta break bread. We gotta do things together. We gotta go over to the Starbucks and have coffee. We need to have golf. We need to stop and talk to each other and care about each other. I need to know your wife's name, your kid's name. I need to help you no matter what. Your kid's out of a job, we get them a job. Why? We love them. What wouldn't we do for friends? But that's all been kind of, there's a new undertone that says that's like bad. I ask every college kids, I created a thing called Hooniversity. And so I ask every, of course. And so, it's too cool. And so I ask every kid when they say, how many people are going to ask your mom and dad for help? Every college kid. No hands. I ask them at the end of the thing, how many people are going to ask your mom and dad for help? Yeah, why? Are you kidding me? The person who loves you the most, you're not going to ask them? Like as if, but they want to show them. I'm going to show you I can do this on my own. And then we have dads who think, you ought to be doing this on your own. And you need to do it. You need to walk up that hill 4 miles. And you heard that story all the time. The only problem is that your uncle, your mom tells you, hey, Uncle Billy picked him up about a quarter of the way up. It's all embarrassing. Your dad never did any of that. Whatever that story was, it's all hogwash. Success tip number 4. Confidence. I love. Zig just said the most profound things in the most simple way, in the simplest way, in the way that would totally make you feel like, oh my gosh, yeah. So if we're going after Moby Dick, you better bring the tartar sauce. I mean, it's just too cool. So here's mine with it, right? You got to know who you are. Let me tell you a story. So my dad, he digs all this teaching, right? So I'll never forget, I'm 17 years old. I'm in Vegas. We're seeing Frank Sinatra. We're in Vegas with the king. We're at the Sands Hotel. It's unbelievable. It's spectacular. We're seeing it, and so, I mean, there isn't anybody like Frank Sinatra. It's not only that he has a great voice, but the way he says it is just even better. The way he carries himself, the way he walks on a stage, the way he looks at you, the way he knows it. He knows who he is, and he knows what you dig, and he's delivering it. And he knows you want to hear that song, and he knows you want to hear it this way, and he knows you want to come over and maybe grab your arm and talk to you and say a second, and he has a funny thing. He's just the king. There's not many people like him, and that's why we only have a few of them. My dad says, hey, we're going to go backstage afterwards and meet the king. And he says, I want you to understand that what I'm about to tell you is when we go backstage, there's going to be a big old bouncer at the door, and I don't want you to say anything. I'm going to teach you a lesson. I said, sure. So we come backstage. And all of a sudden, it's that kind of guy. Do you know there's those kind of guys at every stage of your life? For anything that you want, for any dream you want, for everything that you think is cool, there's always going to be someone like that who looks at you and gives you the no sign. So now we're going to test the metal, right? Because Zig wants you to bring tartar sauce. So here's the question. You got to understand, this isn't this. My dad comes back and says, he walks up to the guy and says, hey, Frank Sinatra. And he goes, no, Mr. Sinatra's not seeing anyone. My dad goes, tell him Frank Baudine and his son Bobby are here. And he goes, he thinks about it. And he goes, Mr. Sinatra's not seeing anyone. And my dad leans into him and he goes, tell him Frank Baudine from Chicago now. Now the guys start to think, dang, maybe this guy's part of the Gambino family. Who is this Frank Baudine from Chicago? Okay, so he's thinking, hey, I might just lose my job if I don't go back and talk to Frank. So all of a sudden he goes back in the room. And my dad doesn't know Frank Sinatra, never said he did. He goes back in and my dad goes, watch. All of a sudden, the doors open up. Boom. Frank Sinatra walks towards my dad and he looks at my dad and goes, Frank, how are ya? Bobby, come on in. Where's the wife? My dad goes, Martha comes in tomorrow. And he goes, hey, Joey, make sure there's 3 seats up front tomorrow on me for Frank, Martha, and Bobby. Come on in. And we sit for 20 minutes talking about Chicago, talking about the town, talking about things. Why? Because you've got to be bold. That's your tip. Listen to me. There ain't anything that you can't do with God. There's no place you can't go. It's who you are. Who are you? You're a daughter and a son of the King. Are you kidding me? When did you get fooled as to who you were? How did you fall prey to all of a sudden someone telling you you're less? How do you let someone design your life? If you let someone design your life, they will design it too small. If you want to sit and never get backstage, you sit back and don't go. But listen, Zig made a quote about that. The key is starting. You got to start. You got to make a move. You got to move towards where you're going to go. That's the issue. You have to know who you are. I'm here to tell you that you're amazing, that you're awesome, that you do one thing better than anyone else in the whole world, and he'd be lucky. He'd be lucky to be in your presence. You don't understand that you're a daughter of the King. The who of whos. That's who you are. Are you kidding me? And so the confidence of knowing what you're going to say and how you're going to say it is what? This is it. I know who I am. Some people, they do that. There's a great scene in the movie Joe versus the Volcano. Okay? You always think this movie's and you stop and say, hey, I love this movie. And why would Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan be in this movie? And they're sitting out on this luggage. You got to watch the movie. It's crazy. And they're out on this luggage, and she says to him out in the middle of the ocean, my dad always told me that some people, all the people around us, all the people who are the waiters, the things and everything, they're all sound asleep. And then there are some people who live their lives in total, constant amazement. You got to choose. Which one are you? I want to be in amazement. I'm going to be Frank Baudine from Chicago. Everybody say that. Frank Baudine from Chicago. Holy cow, what a story. Success step number 5. If you want your dream to come true, you got to help others get to your dream. I mean, this is like the epitome. Zig says it about 100 different ways. Every way he says it, it reminds me of the story of what? Him holding his folder of my little dog, this little furry dog, who all of a sudden he's going to do something and help other people. He helps people every day. I went to Zig didn't know who I was. I went to his Bible study over at Prestonwood. I loved everywhere he'd go, I just wanted to be around him. I'd listen to his tapes. I've been listening to Zig Ziglar since I was, 20. I'd fill myself with him. I am Zig Ziglar. I'm just disguised as Bob Baudine. You just think that. You had no idea. There's a piece of who he is here today, and you all know it and you all feel it. That's the difference. Because when you hear something is part of something that's so good. But you're Zig Ziglar. Everyone has a piece of Zig. This doesn't go away. This is a movement. This is a movement to greatness. I got to tell you a story. So we create on Fridays. At 2 o'clock, our firm closes down. and we call our friends. That's it. Ask how we can help them. It's called Who Friday. So at 2 o'clock every Friday, we stop. Every single in the firm has to just call their friends and see how they can help them. Truly help them. Would you be surprised that Fridays become our biggest day of business? I called a friend of mine, and I called him and I said, "Hey, Bob, how you doing?" "Great, great, great. How's your wife, Mary?" "Oh, she's okay." I go, "What's the matter?" "You know, Bob." And he says, "My son Larry, is a paraplegic, and he's now 26, and we're worried. My wife's starting to feel the pressure that she's not getting enough moments with Larry, and that he could pass away. And she's just not getting it." I go, "What does Larry like to do?" "Oh, my gosh. He sees his wheelchair, Bob, as kind of NASCAR. And he's a Dale Earnhardt Jr. guy." I go, "Wow, awesome." I said, "Do you go to the race?" And he goes, "Oh." He says, I go. I take my son. He says, "There's one coming up in 3 weeks." He says, "But Mary does." And him and I sit up in the handicap area, and I said, "Have you ever been down to the pit?" And he goes, "I don't know. Can you really kind of go down to the pit?" I said, "I'll call you right back." I immediately call up, the agent of Dale Earnhardt Jr. I said, "I got some who." And I call him and I say, hey, so listen, I got this amazing story about Mary and Larry, and we got to do something. We got to do something momentous. Now, let me tell you, does Dale like to do that?" And he goes, "Yeah, hey, I think he'd do something like that." I go, that totally sounded weak. I said, "Listen, I'm really good friends with Jimmy Johnson's agent. Got to have some who leverage." And he goes, No, I think we can do something. Now we're talking." All of a sudden, they wheel him down. Mary does. And out of nowhere comes Dale Earnhardt Jr., and he's got a Polaroid camera, and he goes, bam, he takes a picture of Larry, pulls it out, and he takes the camera thing, and he throws it over here, and he's whipping like this, and he takes him, and he rolls him over to the car. And he says, "Is this not the coolest car you've ever seen? Larry's coming unglued." I mean, it's like unbelievable. He's whipping his thing, and he's going like this. He goes, "This is your picture, Larry." He said, "Yes, look at this." And he takes it and puts it in the flap, in the visor, and he says, "You and I, we're driving together today." And then he takes and he puts headphones on Mary and on Larry, and he says, "Now listen, we're part of the Dale Earnhardt Jr. team." And he says, "When I go around today, when I go past people, I'm going to scream out, 'Hey, Larry, we're going to take it to them right now.'" He takes his jacket off and he puts it around Larry and he signs it to him. He grabs a jacket out of the car and he puts it around Mary and he says, "Listen, this is our team. Let's go to each of the drivers and get them to sign Larry's coat, and let's talk to them and tell them we're going to you-know-what to them today." He says, "The first guy I want to talk to, Jimmy Johnson." "Jimmy!" And he goes, "Hey, Dale, what are you doing?" He goes, "We're going to kick your you-know-what today." And he goes, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "I got Larry on my team." And he walks over to Larry and he goes, "What were you thinking?" I made one call on a Who Friday. That's it. And I get this call from Mary, and I'm on my vacation, and she calls and goes, "What did you do?" And I go, "Did something go wrong?" And she goes, "No." She says, "I have a moment now with my son. We're part of the team. What did you do?" And I said, "I didn't, what are you talking? I just made a call." And she goes, "No, you just kind of stepped in. Do you know that you hold the key? That each of you here, each of the people out there, you hold the key to your friends' and family's goals and dreams? That you could just step in and do a Zig Ziglar for someone. Zig does that every day. That's who he is. That's who you are. That's part of us. That's what this legacy, the legend of people is, that they planted in you something so great, so amazing, that you could pass it on to a future generation. You have stories about your life, your parents, your brothers, your friends, that you're not telling anybody. You got to ask your dad and say, "Hey, what is it? What's the best story you got? What's your Frank Baudine from Chicago story?" You got to know your stories. Listen, you got to be a moment maker. So I got one more bonus tip. Got to have a bonus tip. It's, It's unbelievable. Here it is. You can't perform in a manner inconsistent to the way you see yourself. It was Zig. How do you see yourself? I got to change your vision of who you are. You're not who you think you are. You're better. You're better than good. You're over the top. You're amazing. You're stupendous. Of course, I got a story, right? It's got to be colossal if it's going to be like my last one. Can someone really say to you they got a better story? Yeah. Yeah, I got a better story. Here we go. Arnold Palmer again. Oh my gosh, that's me with my kind of like dark hair with a mustache. This is me with the king. So I have a friend call me. Okay, so you got to remember your quote, right? Okay, your quote before was, can't perform in a manner inconsistent with the way you see yourself. That's what I want you to think on. Okay, so here it is. Friend calls me and he says, hey, there's this big job that I heard about. And I got someone who told me I should go up for that job. But I don't know. I don't know if I should go for it. I don't know if I feel really good about that. So I have a chance, a moment. I'm busy in my day and a person calls and you got to stop what you're doing to catch the moment. You have moments every single day that are happening around you and you need to stop. Your child's talking to you, your wife's talking to you, your husband's talking to you. Somebody's talking to you about something that matters in their life and they need your attention. Okay? So I turn and I listen to this guy and I go, no, hold it a second. Of course you'd win that. You need to go up for that. Let me give you some tips. So I give him some tips. I encourage him. All I do is come beside him and lift him up. He goes over, smokes it, wins the job. Comes back and he goes, oh my gosh, I need to give you like a gift. I go, what are you talking about? No, I didn't go to the interview. You did. All I did was encourage you. No, I want to give you a gift. I said, no, yes, no, yes. He says, okay, here's what I'll do. He says, what about you going to golf with me and my dad and you and your dad? I said, yeah, hey, I'd like to do that. He says, can I bring a friend? I said, sure. And he says, I'm bringing Arnold Palmer. You know Arnold Palmer? You've been holding out on me? He goes, before I leave this company, I get one more thing that I can do it. Instead of me giving it to the corporation, you get to go. I'm going to just fly you and your dad out there. We're going to go to Bay Hill. We're going to play in this, best ball deal. It's going to be unbelievable. I got to tell you, this is such a good thing. So in my book, I tell a story about my dad and Arnold Palmer. That's so good. But you got to read it, right? I'm not like telling you that story. That would be like, Zig would always hold back something like, hey, look at, I've inspired you, but you got to read. Okay, so here it is. But I want to tell you a story. We finished the round, and Arnold Palmer, we had this day. He's better than good. He cares about people like Zig does. He cares about you. If you hit a good shot, okay, you hit a big shot, wow, I love that. Yeah, I needed that. And he puts his arm around you when you walk down the hole. I mean, he's just like, it's just like great. We finish and he tells me, he says, hey, I want to tell you a story. I developed a golf course in Saudi Arabia. I said, wow. He said, the king was so excited when we did our celebratory round afterwards, after I developed this course, he turned and said he wanted to give a gift just like your friend did. And I told him, no, I don't come to Saudi Arabia very often. He says, but I want to give you a gift. And he says, I don't come to Saudi Arabia. I paid you a lot. I charge you a lot of money. No, we don't need to. And the king says, no, I want to give you a gift. And I went back, no, yes, until the king says, I'm the king. If I tell you I'm going to give you a gift, you're going to take my gift. And he says, Bob, I blew the protocol. And he said, the king looked at him and goes, what do you want? What do you want? What do you like to say to a king? Holy cow. And so he says, so he's trying to get out of the conversation. He says, I collect golf clubs. So he's flying home to Bay Hill. And he's thinking to himself, this is the richest man in the world. He might get me an all-gold driver. It could be gemmed with rubies and diamonds and emeralds. He said, I'm starting to get pumped. I'm waiting 10 days at Bay Hill for my box. 13 days, nothing. 15th day, I get a letter from the king. I'm totally bummed. He said, Bob, where's my box? And he says, I open up this letter, and it's a deeded trust for 495 acres of a golf club. He bought an entire golf club. That's what he thought he meant.
Oh my gosh.
Kings think differently than we do. They think golf club. And we think, golf club. That's a story. Arnold Palmer looks at me and goes, so what are you thinking about your life? And I go, what are you talking about? He goes, are you thinking golf club or golf club? And then he said this amazing thing. Arnold Palmer's schooling me. Ready? As a man thinketh in his heart, as a woman thinketh in his heart, so are you. Listen, you're amazing. Did you let your dream go? When did you let it go? When did you say, I've had enough of my dream and I'm going to place it on other people in my family? Because they're looking to you. They're looking to you. They're clearly looking across the room to you. There's no one exempt. They want, listen, this is about your life. We don't have a long time here. Every single day, if Zig starts, and Tom started out and said, hey, look, he's talking about Scripture, he's talking about the little redhead, and then all of a sudden he's thinking to himself, hey, I just didn't film this, and they better have gotten this, Tom. They better have filmed. This better dang be filmed. You better have done it. Thank you. So what's my summary? Listen, here's the summary. You have to go inspire people today. I'm encouraging you. I am giving you permission to inspire others today. And as you do, it'll fuel passion. As it fuels passion, you'll never be the same. 2, all things are possible with God. Start your day with God. That's the best tip in the world. Alone with God, that's it. Your best is ahead. There's nothing about this that all of a sudden said, hey, like, I wish I had this. No. How's your best ahead? One friend. That's what we're looking for. One friend. You find one friend. God said, listen to me, your grandfather told you if you had one friend, you're blessed. If you had 3, you're rich in life. If you had 12, we change the world. Jesus had 12 friends, 3 close, 1 best. Everyone knows who he is. 2,000 years later, still signing recruits, still doing deals. Frank Baudine from Chicago. I don't have to say anymore. That's what you'll always remember for the rest of your life. You'll tell everyone Frank Baudine from Chicago. Hey, what are you going to do? Frank Baudine from Chicago. Hey, so no, I'm not going to. And be a moment maker. Stop thinking about this. Listen, this is all about serving. The reason we can serve is because we know we're a son and we know we're an heir. We know who we are, so serving's the best. And since God says you can't outgive him, it's too good. And last, dream bigger. You got who? You have a community of friends that are waiting for you right now who need your help, want to do something with you, want to play with you, want to have fun with you, want to play golf, do all the stuff. Go do that today. God bless you all, and thank you so much for letting me do it. Woo! Thank you.
Bobby B. Man. Awesome.
Thanks.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yes. Stay right here, man. That's why we love the Ziegler Legacy series, right?
That is.
That's right. So that talk, that was like a lifetime in the making.
It was.
It was awesome.
Yeah, it was. That was a whole lifetime. Everybody's got a story, right?
Everybody has a story.
And everybody needs to hear your story. That's what's amazing. Everyone should write a book. Just to do an acknowledgments page.
Wall of gratitude, acknowledgments page, same thing.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so we have a live audience here. Are there any questions that you would like to? Yes, Fernando.
58.
He's just getting started.
Yeah, I can promise you that.
So Bob, what's next?
You know, I've got a very cool thing. I've just got asked by Governor Perry's wife to do her Global Women's Conference. So I'm very excited about doing some things. I just spoke to 3 million people in Iran in satellite. Do you know that 60% of all of Iran is under the age of 30 and have no concept of friendship? And so the Billy Graham kind of Iran is trying to, instead of allowing something to come at him, he's going into there and creating in their homes and creating positive. So that's really exciting to me. So I'm in the midst of writing a new book. So when I first really started writing The Power of Who, I first wrote The Power of Who that reminded that you already know everyone you need to know. Isn't that amazing? It didn't say you weren't going to get to know some. It said that you already know. The second book that and I wrote a workbook for it, which I spent a year getting all the questions that all my friends would want to ask. And then I went in there and I told you how you could actually find not only the what in your life by going out on a wilderness journey and me teaching you how to do it, but also finding who these who are, the 12 rules of friendship. We've gotten away from these rules of friendship. And so the second book I'm doing is, I've always thought of it as a trilogy, which would be The Power of Who, You Got Who, that we should be doing life with our friends. This is unbelievable. We're tribal. Every one of us. There's some people we're supposed to, that like us. I mean, I just like being with Tom. I just like coming here.
Hard to believe, I know.
And so my last book will be Do You Who, right? Which will all be about giving, which would have been where we should have started to start with. So.
Yeah,
awesome. A lot of good things.
Well, Bob, I got good news for you on that. Governor Perry's wife on that women's conference.
Yes.
There's an 80% chance she'll be the best looking guy in the room.
Unless you walked in and all of a sudden it's like plummeted.
Absolutely. Well, let's close it off. I know we're going to get covered up with requests for your book. So everybody watching the Ziglar Legacy series, we're going to be sending an email with information on how to get who. The good news is, you already have who, you just don't know how to unleash it.
That's exactly right.
Right?
You're exactly right.
That's right. And that's what Bob's an expert at. Bob, once again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I know Dad's smiling right now.
Hi.
And he's got the ultimate who.
Yeah, he does.
He's got the ultimate who with him right now. So I'm Tom Ziglar, the proud son of Zig Ziglar. Thank you for joining the Ziglar Legacy series. We will see you again next time.